Welcome back, everyone. So today I have someone on the show that's going to be able to teach you some things about sales and really how to build, how to grow. He started as a sales director in a fitness company. I shouldn't say that's really where he started, but he's been in fitness and he's done this at a pretty big level. Was a national sales director for a fitness company, UFit, trained regional directors on PT sales, how to make stuff happen. Was a high ticket Zoom call salesperson for a company we're going to talk about here in a second, and sold over 40 million personally. He opened up his own marketing company, which he exited this year, January 2023, purchased the company Automation Empire, and he and his wife have just been growing this thing like crazy. Wrote a book called Closer, and you can find him on Instagram as Sales God, because I'll tell you what, that's what he's doing. His name is Ron Earley, and I've got him on the show today. And we're going to go through maybe a little bit of role play. We're going to see where this thing goes. And we're going to talk about how he grew his company, how he grew the business, and the things that parallel from what he's doing with Automation Empire and how it parallels into the gym industry. Ron, thanks for joining, man.
Michael, Zach, thank you very much for having me on.
Of course.
I'm looking forward to today.
Yeah.
What you guys have to bring on the table.
Absolutely. And the first thing I want to do is I just want to kind of highlight a little bit of your book, Closer. So talk a little bit about your book, because I think it actually will help a lot of people who are in the process of operating their business and they're trying to figure out how can they make more happen for their business.
I mean, there's multiple layers to peel back with that. One, in the book, I like to break down the dynamics in communication as a whole. It's not just sales. Mm. When you're applying sales, you're communicating people, whether you're in a leadership position, you're trying to grow a business, you're trying to figure out what roles it take, in a sense of being a leader. And I like to break down identifiable traits based off of tone, body language, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you communicate. The way that you communicate comes out in all those layers. And if you want to get people to move inside your business, you want to be able to lead effectively, you have to communicate effectively. And that's identifying those traits. And it's the same thing really when it comes down to sales. You want to understand key components to communication psychology, because at the end of the day, people buy for one reason and one reason only. And that's because they want to. So how do I get somebody to feel like they want to make a purchase? How do I get them to feel like it's the best decision for themselves? It's out of creating feelings, right?
Yeah, selling off emotion.
Right. Or creating emotion. Sometimes there's no emotion to sell off of. You got to figure out how to draw it out. And the only way that you're able to do that is by identifying, the person that you're speaking to. And it talks about a lot of that in the book as well. And if you can't really get anybody to crack, it'll teach you how to get them to crack.
I love it. If you guys don't, no.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought
and
that
hey,
up.
Listeners, if you're listening to this and we interrupt each other, just know that's normal. But if there's a book out there for you and you're trying to figure out how to kind of crack the code, so to speak, take a look at Closer. And you can also get him on his Instagram handle, Sales God, if you want to look at that in more depth. So tell me a little bit about how you generated. I mean, you generated a lot of revenue in Automation Empire. Talk a little bit about Automation Empire, what it's been doing, how you were able to make that transition. I mean, was it just going to kind of like be a back and forth talking point? Because you were in the fitness industry, you kind of, you got your sales, experience maybe a little bit in the fitness industry and elevated it. And then you took that in a completely different direction with online sales, and you've done over 1.4 billion in revenue. For a lot of people, that's like, how did you do that? How is that possible? I mean, it's a lot of revenue to be generating. So how would you suggest for someone to transition that into like a brick and mortar? Because a lot of the people that we're talking to, or online fitness, it doesn't matter. I mean, how do you do that? How do you generate that kind of revenue, and how does it apply?
You threw a little wrench in there in the question.
I did.
And you said, how do you bring that specifically to brick and mortar? And I like that because that changes what I was going to answer. And the biggest dynamic that I think people don't pay attention to is they think that they're limited based off of what they have as far as a resource. You can bring in brick and mortar digital, especially when it comes to PT and sales. Applications that you create, having people subscribe to those things, people that can't necessarily show up to a personal training appointment doesn't mean that they can't subscribe to a personal training plan, especially if I can customize something on your behalf because you can't get on my schedule. Maybe your work schedule is chaotic. Now I've created a fix for a time deficiency that you can't commit to, but now you have an exercise plan I can upload videos to. So it's more about just figuring out a way that you can fix a problem to a solution, which is sales 101. But at the same time, being an entrepreneur or being in business, you got to get a little innovative, and it's at everybody's disposal. We all have applications downloaded on our phone, so why not implement them?
So how do you do that on the online side? Given that you're not brick and mortar, because to your point, a lot of the businesses that might be listening to this, they have their own online PT business, and they're going, how do I sell? How do I get this stuff moving?
That's a really, really good question too. And that's a little different too. I think that's more of a branding question than it is a sales question. And a lot of people want to put out what they know, and they talk about stats and statistics and what they're able to do. And obviously it's important to get results. Those things aren't unimportant, but like we talked about, it's emotion getting people to move. So you want to talk about horror stories that actually happen inside PT processes. And when you're creating content, you need to create solutions to problems that people have had in the past that they have an emotional tie to, that you're not saying you'll fix. You just talk about how you would fix them. So I'm not just making training videos. I'm pulling somebody out of a place of pain where they tried to make an investment in themselves and it went terribly wrong because someone had no business selling that service to begin with. It's positioning. Everything's positionable.
Okay, I'm going to ask one more question. I'm going to hand it off to Zach here. But how do you, because you're doing this today, right? You've got Automation Empire. You're selling product. I don't know. Are you selling services?
Yeah.
On Automation Empire?
That's what's interesting about this. So I have two different entities that I actually host.
Mm-hmm.
Automation Empire, is an investment firm, so it is a service. But I also host wholesale automation. So we buy wholesale freight. I disperse it into clients' stores. We take a direct profit share.
So how could you, off the top of your head, just off the cuff, I've not given you any insight to this question whatsoever, but off the cuff, how would you how could that be transferable, that same process that you use with Automation Empire? How can you make that transferable into an online fitness business?
That's a really good question. I think this actually goes without saying. Sometimes it's just understanding and studying the basis of money, which I know that sounds very indirect to your question, but you don't understand the flows of money and the things that are access to you. And it's the limiting thing. Mm-hmm. I'll give you context. I'll give you very, very good context because I just went through the same thing. I just told you guys I exited the business in January. I have the two biggest rooms on lease right now in this building that we host here in Sarasota. And now that I exited it because my name's on it, they won't let me let that room go. It's $10,200 a month. I have no reason to use it. I got rid of the commercial cubicles. I run an investment firm, and we make content, but I only make content once a week. And there's a place called PureSpace that, mind you, investment firm, wholesale. And now I have a room that I've set up 5 stations in, got us listed on PureSpace. So rather than taking a $122,000 loss because the landlords won't let me out of it, it's 4 hours minimum at $125 an hour on PureSpace for them to rent. I just turned $122,000 loss into a $340,000 profit. You just have to look at accessible items. Maybe getting a nutritionist inside of this so you can disperse nutrition plans, or maybe it's a food prep company, or maybe there's items that you can put inside PT. Like there's always something that you want to compound on outside of just selling a gym membership. More things are available that meets the eye. I don't do a content creation business.
Right.
I do investment business. Right.
So
I think sometimes it's not looking at things that are black and white. Nothing's ever black and white.
So take away from me that I capture from that is, what do you have at your disposal that you could repurpose? If you have something that maybe somebody else wants or needs, and if you don't know of that person that they want it or need it, find the people that do and repurpose whatever it is that you have. I mean, you might have material. I mean, if you're in the fitness industry, you probably have plenty of workout programs that you've created either for yourself or for other people, and you could repurpose it into a profit machine for yourself.
Bingo.
Nice.
Bingo. And everything's profitable. Like you should have some kind of continuity or cash flowing, recurring, major program. Like there should be 4 sources of income out of every single business that you have. If you haven't figured it out, you need to put it on paper. You need to figure out which one is missing. That way you can match up what the missing link is.
I love that. I'm going to come back to that question, but I'm going to let Zach know because I know he's itching to ask a couple questions.
Yeah. So the main reason why I had you on here, man, was more so for me is this your understanding of sales and human psychology, because it does seem like from all the stuff I watched, I mean, a lot of people know you from Amazon Automation Empire and maybe the author, but I mean, I remember watching your stuff, and you have a lot of good content on your platforms about human psychology that ties in with sales. So I'm we kind of touched earlier on how like more of the branding side to get people to buy, but I kind of have a question that I'm sure you know this, and Michael for sure knows this, but especially with times in like corporate gyms and being corporate trainers and stuff like that, we're at a time now that trust is at an all-time low with those, right? People come into the gyms, and when they're face to face with someone, they're like, I just want to buy a membership, or they're reluctant to come in because they know someone's going to slam them with PT, whether it be unethical sales practice, because either people don't have the right sales skills or they're still using that same sales book from like the 1950s where it's like hard close. So I guess, like I said, what I see a lot in like these communities that people are asking is how do you, in a time of like such distrust, how do you get a prospect to really trust you when you're face to face that you're the right person for that, I guess, for that job, especially when it comes to, for this instance, the PT, right? Because there's so many bad trainers out there, but they just don't trust anybody right off the bat when they come in. So what would be your process, or I guess psychology, I'm going to call it a trick because it's more of a skill, but to kind of go about that to help trainers or even the GMs or salespeople at these clubs or studios build more rapport and get their prospects to let their guard down and build more trust?
Such a good question. I'm going to take a quick drink before I answer this because it made me think back to this terrible program that they used to make me use. Well, I moved over. I got signed on by LA Fitness. They paid me the same thing. I managed half the gyms. I absolutely hated working there. It was worse than UFit. Horrible. I mean, like horrible. So you guys have assessments set up in your gyms? Like fitness assessments where you walk them through, you give them a first free training session?
Yeah. I was saying we use the assessment in our gyms and stuff like that. But I think from my previous experience, especially as like it was closer to COVID before we made that transition, like when you whip out those assessments and the sheets, I could tell that people would automatically get their guard up because they're like, oh man, there's going to be a hard close after this. And they automatically don't trust you. So a lot of times I kind of went off script a little bit, but I know a lot of people, those assessments and kind of those processes.
That's one way of looking at it. I look at it as bought time. You need to buy as much time as you possibly can. Sometimes. And that actually gets you to come away from the hard sale, right, I guess is the best way to put it. And if you're doing more teaching and educating versus storytelling, which opens up emotional responses to get people to actually move in a direction, figure out layers, I'm now with them for the next half hour to an hour to be able to do that. Sales process never happens at the end. Terrible salesmen open up the sales process at the end. You're selling throughout the assessment. That's how you build the trust. If I have an open window, I'm definitely not coming away, by the way, from assessments ever because it's bought time. The hardest thing in the world is to get anybody to give them your time, especially if their guard's immediately up. But if I can give you something for free at no cost to you, it's not going to hurt you. Take it, run with it if you want to. And if I get the chance to kick your ass over the course of the next 30 minutes, then sweet, you got a free workout. But the idea is to open up layers. Like that is it. Like 100%, that is it. Okay. And I don't know if I mentioned this part where it was recording, but it's worth noting again. People buy for one reason and one reason only, and that's because they want to. That's it. You'll never get anybody to do anything that they don't want to do, especially hand you over their hard-earned money. If I want them to get fit and I want them to feel like the product's going to work and I want them to trust me, the only way I'm going to be able to do that is if I open up an emotional response. And the only way that you get any kind of a response, emotional response, is through storytelling. It's not stats and analytics and statistics. No one gives a shit about that. That's why that piece of paper sucks. We had a program that we had to use. It was like this automated program that would show them like their body mass index and what they could come from a certain amount of time. And it was like this digitized thing. I hated it. Absolutely hated it because it took the human factor out of it.
Right.
So let's role play that. I got to get into this because I want to role play. I think people need to hear the process of how this works. Because to your point, so there's two things that I had done differently on our PT side. And it was, we use science in education and we also story told, but we didn't use any kind of statistical measurement from some kind of sheet where it would automatically be broken down. We did break it down. So we would break down body composition and fat mass and fat-free mass and give them the measurement, but we do it by hand. So we calculate it out by hand. So that way it was personal instead of a machine telling them something, because it's the same thing that you could do with anyone. Put them on a treadmill. Machine can kind of give you guidance. You go let them stand on a Tanita scale or use an Omron. The machine can tell them that information. But if you can tell them what that information means, how it's applicable, and the stories that fall behind that in the data, and then you have already given them that assessment or that analysis. We always call it an analysis, because I had one lady years ago say that I don't need to be assessed. I look in the mirror every day. And from that point on, we changed our verbiage of assessment to analysis, because I was like, man, you know, I felt horrible, right? Because she was overweight and she felt bad about herself, and she was being serious. Like, she didn't want anyone to say that she needed to be assessed. So we strayed away from that language years ago. And then we started calling in everything movement analysis.
I find that really interesting. Why did that feel like you needed to move away from the assess when she said, I don't want to be assessed? She said, I assess myself every day. What was the response to that? What was the response?
Oh, what did I say when she said that? I said, I completely understand where you're coming from, but really what we're looking to do is just go through a fitness assessment. We're going to go through some exercises, real basic, just to get an understanding of specifically where your baseline is and where we can make improvements if need be. And so, you know, that's the response, but you could tell that she was grappling with this word. Like, why is this person going to assess me? Is he looking at me right now? So that was a turning point.
It's a great time just to bring up a point just in this example. Sometimes some of the best things in the world that you could do is just play the stupidest person in the room. And just by asking a question, we talk about being able to pry open emotion. Very easily, you could have just said, is it a good assessment or a bad assessment? Just so I can understand.
Oh, for her. Yeah.
Yeah, immediately. Because now if I play dumb and she's going to give me a response, and I know she's going to say bad assessment, and now I can directly move into the direction of what you're trying to do, because, well, I don't want you to badly assess yourself every day. Obviously, you made the first right step by coming in here. Can I take the next 45 minutes to show you how to do what you need to do? That way you don't feel that way anymore.
Yeah, it's perfect.
If I'm already starting to build yes, that's the first emotional lever already pulled. She told me, I didn't tell her.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
You always see those little micro opportunities. And this is one thing too that I did with my sales guys. I would always record everything. And it's one of the things that I do in the book. I won't just tell you how to do things. I have active practices at the end of each section, so you can test yourself on how well you deliver the message, or testing your tone, or story shaping, story gapping, storytelling. All those things are in there. There's a format, there's a formula for it. And it'll open up opportunities like what we just talked about, because it's all a part of framing. And the person that controls the frame controls the conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
So the best thing that I could have done in that situation was playing dumb. And even though I look dumb in the situation, I'm still controlling the frame, even though she's the person that's in control.
That's good. So let's hit on that a little bit more. Let's role play some more on this. So customer comes in. This is a common practice that happens, right, in the gyms, and they'll say something to the effect of, "I'm just looking around." You guys have, you guys have. What are your membership rates? They always do that, right? They always come in, and it's for the person who's got their guard up already. It's, I'm just looking around. And then what are your membership rates? That's what they always want to know. And you might even get the phone call. We'll do the TI after this. So what would you say in that scenario?
So it's membership specific, not training, just to make sure that I answer this correctly.
Yeah, we'll start with memberships, because a lot of the places that, use our software and that listen to this, they have gyms, and then they have personal training as well. So we'll roll into the training component.
I like that. So the best things in the world that you can do is isolate objections well before they happen, or be able to get answers. That way you can provide solutions almost instantaneously. And if they say that they're looking around, I'd ask if they're looking around at other gyms that are in the area and if there's things that they like about them. If there's things that they like about them, I want to be able to show them that I have those things too. And I'd ask, what are they missing and why didn't you sign up there?
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so let's role play
what
that.
do I need
So
to provide?
I come in and I say, so, I'm just looking around and wanting to know what your membership rates are.
Rates would definitely be a little bit different than take a look around. Rates would almost have a different positioning, and it's hard for me to pitch rates if I don't know what they are and I don't know what your different rates offer. I need to know what I'm leveraging here before I can pitch and present it. What do your rates typically look like, and what accessibilities do you guys have in your gym?
Most of the gyms that we work with are rates anywhere from $30 to $50 a month.
Okay. Is there like a major differential, like a differentiating factor between the two?
No.
Sometimes, yeah, the only ones are subtle. I mean, sometimes there'll be multi-club access. Sometimes you might have certain group classes maybe attached to it. So there's like little perks here and there. I know the clubs I was with, you can loop in, like we had a spa, so you can loop in spa with them and stuff like that. So that's generally, at least for my
I think before I would pitch them the price, if it's going to be based off of, if you guys have saunas or group class access, or I'd ask them if they're interested in those things well before I pitched the price. That way I could guarantee that I was going to show them the right package. Like have them give me what it is that they're looking for before I pitch it. And sometimes it's nice to be able to give people options, but people really don't like to make decisions.
Right.
So the easier I'd be able to isolate that down, I'd be able to actually find the right solution for them. So if you came in, that's probably what I would say. I'd ask you before I show you the memberships that we currently have available for you, and I can make sure I get you the right one. Are you interested in doing things like a pool, a sauna, steam room, group classes? Have you ever done those before? Is it something that would interest you? They say no, then they would just look for a regular gym membership. Then I'm sure you guys have a folder or something you'd slide forward. I like to point and show a visual representation because it's a little bit, sometimes it could be a little deafening when you just say a cost. If I say a cost and I circle it and they can match it with a visual component, it's a little bit easier from the process to understand. And now I can go walk them through it. This is my rate. Would you mind if I go ahead and I walk you through and I can show you exactly what you want to look for?
Love it.
I'm already insinuating and show them what they want to look for. Right? It's really hard to say no when I'm already giving you all the things to already say yes to. But the idea, again, like we talked about the training thing, it's all about buying time.
So I kind of have some that might lead into that. What I see a lot, just because I do a lot of social listening, just to find out what pain points of gym owners and things of that are. And one thing that I saw multiple times was, like I said, ties into with this is you get a phone call, they ask what their rates are or whatever they offer, whatever they might say. And people are like, hey, we have no problem getting the leads. We have no problem getting on the phones with the leads. But where our issues come in is getting them to commit and show up to an appointment, to come in. And, people have shared, like I said, some of the stories I saw, they're like, they said I listed the price of the memberships. They like that. I listed the amenities. They're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I need. And then they come up with the objection of, oh, got to look at my calendar, or I got to find time, or whatever they want to throw at them. So that's their issue. They're like, hey, not a lead gen problem. It's getting them to commit and actually walk through that door to talk to me. You got to start teaching your people that are pitching
this. How would you go about that? I think a lot of times in sales, we get caught up in anchoring and finding pain points. There's an alternative process. I talk about this in the book too. Right. And you have to actually de-anchor by attaching to a pleasure point. It's not just pain. You don't bring them to a place of pain. What you want to do is you want to paint an outline of the person that they don't want to be, which is the person that they're being by not buying the service. They're not buying the product. They're not getting a gym membership. People don't like hearing about their bad habits, especially when you're throwing it back in their face very nonchalantly. They won't agree to being that person. So how long are they going to continue to think about going to the gym and staying out of shape? Versus if you come in, I'll give you a free workout. I'll make sure that you know what you're doing. That way, if your time does get a little scattered, you'll know exactly what to do no matter what time you come to the gym. If I can offer that to you, would you come in today? I just got them to commit to an assessment too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's Sometimes it's not as difficult as people make it out to be, but I will tell you, without the right training, people get uncomfortable bringing things like that up. But if you really want to help somebody, you got to move somebody out of their own way.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good stuff, man. Like I said, that's a big one I see, especially now with everyone running Facebook ads and their lead gens coming in. It's not a lead problem anymore. It's
we have issues with that.
So that actually helps.
You asked how these could be comparable. Right. So I give you a direct response and how I train my qualification guys over here. One, I will say that not all money is good money. So not everybody I want to sign up. Like if you're, is it cool if I curse?
Say it like it is.
If they're a dickhead, I don't want your cash.
Yeah.
I don't. I really, really, really don't. And, we have a pretty solid affiliate program here too. And that's like my one rule of thumb is like, don't bring me an asshole because I'll disperse you as a client and I will happily refund them their money and potentially pay them more just to go away. You don't, sometimes you don't want to deal with it. But if I have people that are coming in, they want to get a flow of income, like a passive flow of income, kind of like what we do, or if you want to get a digital style of asset, and people are just looking to shave off a couple hours because they want to spend more time with their kids, then I talked about what that de-anchoring point would look like. And they could be in like my situation. And I'd be like, yo, how long will it be before you make this decision? Is your kid going to be 10 and you're still looking to get those couple hours back? Now, how many years have you lost? Mm-hmm. Damn, that's a really good point. I know. And I know you want to think about it. So how much time is going to go by before you think about it? And how many more years you're going to lose or months are you going to lose?
Yeah, that's good.
That's where the emotional pull comes from. That's where the de-anchoring comes from, because now I'm painting a visual around exactly what they don't want to be. Shitty part is they're already that person. So it's not like you have to find the right things to say. Like you're just recommunicating what you already know.
Yeah, so really just the ability to have, I want to say it's a hard conversation, but some people mind saying something like that. There's so many,
you talked about the trust thing. One way to earn trust from people sometimes is being correctly blunt. So many people are trying to find all of the right things to say. It sounds too good to be true. Don't make it feel that way, because now it gets all fucking icky and people want to run away from it. If you can be that upfront with someone, you're willing to earn their trust. It's the first time that you guys ever had a chance to have a conversation. There's been people I've turned away on the phone. They wanted to give me their money more. Collecting a $45,000 service over the phone. It's the first time we met. One of the quickest ways to get somebody to give you your money is to tell them that they can't. People want what they can't have. So it works the same way in fitness, just different, it's a different applied result.
Yeah.
So doing that on the membership side.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I can think of, a good handful of PT studios right now that are struggling in the sense that they're working hard. They have to, some of the owners, they got to go back on the floor, train clients. They're trying to figure out how to drive revenue, and they have a hard time converting customers. And the conversations they're having with these customers is, I don't have enough money, or that's too expensive. Mm-hmm. To me, it's a simple, they didn't build enough value. But, let's say they did build the value. How do you overcome that? When it comes down to the money question and the customer's going, so how much is this going to cost me to work with you? And assuming they built plenty of value and the customer sees the value in it, how do you approach that?
I would already. Yeah.
Can I add something to that real quick, that question? So along with that, also, how does one differentiate between a smoke screen and if they're really broke?
So that's part of what I was going to bring up. And you made the answer a little bit more complicated now. But I want to answer it. I'll answer it in 2 parts. With the right value proposition, you can't build enough value and then someone still not want to pay you. That will never happen. It'll never happen. And I'll give you a great example. When people don't understand the value of something, the very first thing that they look at is the price tag. Mm-hmm. Very first thing. And it doesn't even have to necessarily make sense. Like Walk into a gas station and there's a 99-cent bottle of water and then a $6.99 bottle of water, and they have the same fluid ounces. Why is the $6.99 bottle of water going to sell with a 700% markup? It's not going to hydrate you better. Branding and its value, somehow they look at that and they're like, I'm doing something better for myself by buying it. The quality might taste a little bit better, but let's be honest, somewhere in the middle, you're still going to get the same damn quality. They're not buying that. They buy the most. And it's because they think they're getting more value out of it. Value is always going to be the kicker that sells anything. Always. And the biggest way that you can build values out of that emotional response that we talked about. A lot of times, doing something for someone's own self is not a good enough reason to get them to buy. That's why you have to find external factors. I call them keystones. Keystones are very, very important for you to look at, rely on. It could be people, like if they don't have a family, which I feel like that's the quickest revert, like kids and a wife they're very heavy to rely on. But like if you're a business owner or you have people that you need to take care of, anybody else that you can attach to that now gets affected by them not taking care of themselves is a strong attachment point, because people make excuses for themselves. They don't make excuses for other people.
Very true. Very true. So how, I want to take this conversation in a different direction because you have Automation Empire, you got out of the fitness industry, you're making probably more money than you've ever made, running this business and not being a regional director or, teaching regional directors, being the national sales director, right?
Yeah.
What can someone do to have a side income working with Automation Empire? How can they get involved?
It's pretty much a done for you model, if I'm being honest. And it's highly leverageable for us because Amazon as a whole, they're not allowed to monopolize. They just got hit with the FTC. Mm-hmm. If anybody is unfamiliar with that word that means they can't own an industry, and they're damn near doing it with e-commerce. So us as third-party vendors, we're actually responsible for 54% of Amazon's income. So by default, if we scale too much in one storefront, they also will retract the viewership. So I'm limited to what I can sell. So, we find a breezeway of doing this, and now I can get larger wholesale investments by doing community pool money with better margins. You start an entity, right? I launch your storefront, and I can disperse this amongst 700 different stores. And I also have 700 different businesses that I can sell in 2 to 3 years if they decide to do so. So I have several exit strategies, a team that's taking care of everything. They leverage my wholesale accounts. I just need their name, and they leverage the capital. I multiply it for them.
And what's the typical earnings? Why do that versus going into, a different alternative like S&P 500 or investing in cryptocurrency, which is not very, it might be
not great right now.
Yeah, it might be frightening in some sense. So, or real estate, right? They could throw that same money into real estate and get their return on it. So why go the route of Automation Empire versus going the route of something a little bit more secure and, tried and true over the past 50, 100 years?
It's a really good point. And I like the fact that you brought up tried and true, because I'm very secure in watching where the market goes. And out of everything that you just said, the only thing that hasn't had a massive retraction or a retraction at all is e-commerce.
Yeah, it's continued to grow.
Where do I want to go that's safe?
Yeah.
The only place that has ever had a positive trajectory for the last 30 years. And it's only been upscale and multiplying fast. Now, I diversify into real estate assets, and I think that you should diversify. It's important. However, no pun intended, there's a ceiling on real estate. Mm-hmm. I can buy land around it. I can put a pool on it. I can increase the cost, the value of the home, but I'm limited. The more cash that I disperse into an Amazon store, the more wholesale that I buy, the more it cash flows on a month-to-month basis. And now annually, based off of how much cash flow I push through it, it compounds heavier. You can't do that with any other investment. And as long as I broker the deal, mm-hmm. I can take 30% of whatever the exit is.
So let's say someone throws in, there's a flat fee or there's a set fee, if I remember correctly.
It just depends. Okay. It depends on the package that people buy into. So we depending on the profit split that you come into for entry level, we'll do a 30, 70 hour way for a smallest package. And then for the biggest package, it's 70, 30 the other way.
Okay. So let's say someone comes in and your average customer, because I'm sure you've got one of those, and their average earnings per year by percentage would be what? So if I threw, say I'm your average customer and I threw 10,000 into it, over the course of a year, what would be my return on investment for that?
So I wouldn't take it because the minimum is 15 to 20K in working capital. I'd blow through it too fast.
Okay.
To give you an example, I bought $20,000 worth of aminos and it sold out in 48 hours.
Okay.
And that turned over a 32% margin. So it's based off margin amounts and the amount of capital that someone can provide. So you say average customer, it's different based off what the client would provide. But just for the sake of numbers, if we said we did your 10K
sure.
on 30%, 32%, that'd yield $3,200 profit off that 10K.
Okay. And that's
after all fees.
That could happen over the course of a year, or that happens over the course of a few months.
There's a little bit of a strategy behind scaling on Amazon. Amazon likes to do their due diligence and make sure that you have like accredited sellers, people that they can vet. Before you can start pushing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of product, like through your Amazon storefront, they want to make sure that you're not selling fraudulent items. You're not getting things from China. Things aren't showing up broken. So there's a positive review process that you want to do. And they have these layers for certain categories. So like I could shake hands with the person that owns Disney and they can give me a direct letter saying that I can sell their products. If my storefront isn't scaled on Amazon, they have what's called gating. Mm-hmm. Even if I had a letter from the man himself, they wouldn't let me sell that product until I've proved myself worthy on Amazon. So the slowest part of this process is the first, like, let's say 60 to 90 days of pushing product through it. And then from there, whatever you can provide me, I can multiply.
So just so like from my own personal knowledge, so is your clients, can they give you whatever money they want as far as working capital, or do you have a set amount that you're only allowed to take? Assuming after like everything's like you're an accredited seller.
Outside of that, as long as we're good to go. Some of these deals I don't want to disperse amongst a bunch of people. Like we just got a body cream that came in, and to get these units, the margin right now in fourth quarter is fantastic. It yields a 37% profit, which is wild. And this person had 40 grand that bought it last. We pushed a lot of the units through in like 4 or 5 days, went really, really quick. If I wanted to buy out the lot, I could have got a better percentage. It got me up to 41%, but I would have had to buy the lot size out for 177 grand. That's how much they had sitting on their shelves. Mm. So I'd go back and I'd tell you, like, listen, you've already been pushing this. You're sold out. This is what it's going to yield. I'll get a higher percentage off of it. Are you interested in buying the lot size?
It's good.
Yeah.
So it's
a big jump.
How can someone,
but opportunities like that.
How can someone get started? I mean, because I want people to know about Automation Empire. I mean, obviously you have a pretty heavy following, and a lot of people who are following you know about it, but others don't. And how can they get involved, and what are the minimums? You said 15 to 20K, but what's the requirement for somebody to get in and be able to basically invest in an opportunity where they know that they're going to be getting a return on their investment?
One, I put a guarantee in the paperwork that you'll get your money back within a 2-year time frame. Granted, you keep up to your end of the deal and you actually provide us product capital. I can't make you money if you don't give me money. Right. So it's a two-way street here. But I don't want anybody in that doesn't understand it. It's by no means is a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not a blow-up overnight. It's a business. I'm growing a business for you. Understand that I'm going to be interested in potentially wanting to exit, like I've talked with you guys about it. You don't have to. I have people that have no interest in doing that at all. They're just very happy with cash flowing on a month-to-month basis. But this isn't like I sell it out in 3 to 4 years and we're done. We can turn over another storefront and keep duplicating this process. No different than real estate flipping. But more times than not, I need you guys to get on a qualification call, talk with the team. Let us explain how everything works, the operations, explain wholesale to you if it's new, what digital storefronts look like. Mm-hmm. That way you have a good idea. And as we're operating on the store and we communicate to you, you know what it is that we're telling you. That's it. And I did tell you sometimes we disqualify people. So just, don't be a dickhead. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good commercial right there.
Yeah.
This is what we do. This is how we do it. This is how you can get in. Offers going away. Buy one and get 3 free. And by the way, don't be a dickhead.
Yeah. That's the kicker right there. People are like, oh, he's honest.
I love it, man. All right, Ron, I want to be conscious of your time here. I appreciate the fact that you were willing to take some time out of your day and have this conversation. I think there's going to be a lot of people that listen to this and they gravitate probably towards Automation Empire. And they're also going to see that there's opportunity for them to grow their own business just by using some of the little things that you talk about, like, pull that anchor out, let things kind of float away and let them see where they're going to be, where they're headed. If that boat keeps sailing towards the wrong direction.
That's really it, man. The best thing in the world that you can be sometimes with people is just transparent. You could be blunt and not be an asshole about it, but sometimes people need you to be blunt in order to help them get out of their own way. Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest things is people are so worried about people's feelings. And I realize like what social media portrays as like, oh, everybody has to be worried about everybody's feelings. That's also the reason why nobody trusts anybody.
Yeah, so true.
If you want to be better, be different.
Said by the sales god himself. Follow the advice,
sir.
Everyone, thanks for listening. Ron, I'm going to put all of your information in the show notes so that way they can grab it. I have your information if you're okay with me putting it there. If not, obviously I'll retract that info and we'll place it somewhere else. Everyone, again, thanks for listening. You're listening to Sweat Success Podcast. And if there are any questions, check the show notes because that's obviously where you can get the information you need. Again, see you guys on the flip side.